So I think Scotland invented steam power, so perhaps we had some early success. There was a company called, well, there is a company called Wolfson Microelectronics as well, so we're getting there. So my name is Gareth Williams. I'm co-founder and CEO of Skyscanner, a flight search engine, and I hope some of you have the app on your phone and use the website. I'm a programmer by background. I had a spectacularly unsuccessful career as a programmer in London for about 10 years, and then built myself a tool to search the budget airlines, the low-cost airlines of Europe, and we formed a company around that. Skyscanner now has about 24 million unique monthly visitors. We have about 26 million app installs. We're available all around the world. We're about 70% European traffic, about 20% Asia Pacific, and 10% rest of the world. We have offices in the tech center of Edinburgh and in Singapore, Beijing, and just opening an office in Miami, where we hope to take on a certain US competitor. And when I was asked to speak, I thought about what to talk about, and I thought instead of speaking too much about Skyscanner, I'd perhaps pass on some of the things I've learnt or observed in my time concentrating very hard working on a web economy business. And hopefully some of those things will make sense to you. I'm very interested in feedback, getting feedback on that from you, so please do let me know. Bear in mind the health warning. I have one modest success, and that could be entirely random, so make of it as what you will. So first of all, frequency. You have an idea, many of you here will have that idea about what you want to do within the web economy, but not every idea is a true web economy business, which is fine. Companies are still good that are not online companies. And really it comes down to, do you have a web company or a company with a website? And the way that I think about that is to think about universality and about frequency. So I've picked some random companies and I've plotted them on that graph. So on the y-axis, it's about how universal is your product. And then on the x-axis is, if someone uses your website, how frequently do they do so? So I think the place where you get hypergrowth is in the top right segment. The place where you have a company with a website is the bottom left. So if I came to you and to the investors and said, I want to start up a site called usedferraris.com, well, that's terrible on those metrics. It's perfectly valid to set it up as a business, but it's not a web economy business, because at best, your customers will buy once a year, at very best, and there's not many of them. Equally, you can be completely top left. For instance, myfuneral.com is completely universal in terms of audience, but they will definitely only use you once a lifetime, in fact. So a big part, I think, of what the potential growth is, and you see it with Facebook, Google, etc., is they succeed without a marketing department. If you're planning on achieving the same trick, you better be as far top right as you can be. The other point I wanted to make was about funding. I think the stuff that we read in Silicon Valley about the normal course of things, angel funding, A round through to D round, etc., is really dangerous when you're not in Silicon Valley. And I see lots of companies in Edinburgh giving lots of equity away very early on. Our approach was, I think we reached £2 million of revenue before we took our first funding on. We didn't have rich parents or anything like that. We split 2 salaries between 3 people. And so I do believe this is the best definition of entrepreneurship, and that funding should purely be as a means of saving time. It shouldn't exist as the thing that allows you to achieve what you're aiming to do. And when we think about it in terms of Skyscanner, I view ourselves as a startup at scale, which means we're going for order of magnitude levels of growth. Looking back, I now realize we're in the top left of that previous chart, and it takes considerably longer than I'd hoped. But the good thing about the sector that we're in is I think transport, tourism, and hospitality is something like 10% of the world's GDP. So the information needs part of that is a huge market. And we're getting there, currently without huge spends in marketing. Equity analysts recently did some research, and it says we're the 8th biggest online travel brand in the world, and our goal is to be #1 there, and also be most trusted. I grabbed a top 100 of computer science departments around the world and plotted them on a map. And you can see I'm sorry to see that Kiev wasn't on their measurement of that top 100. But as you can see, they're very geographically dispersed. And I guess my point to this is that I think there's a huge amount of democratization going on in that you can read the blogs of very insightful people that are in the thick of things in Silicon Valley. And so it's less of a closed garden than it was in the past. And so it should unleash the generations of computer science graduates and all other related disciplines all around the world. And I think we're starting to see that much more than we did during the first .com boom. In terms of us, what that means is we actually explicitly chose to, when we moved office, to be as close to the University of Edinburgh as we could. On that democratization, this beach is, I would say, world-class. May only be world-class a couple days a year, but it's 15 miles down the road from us in Edinburgh. I think, so some of you will be subscribed to Business Insider, and this was recent. This isn't from 2 years ago. This is a recent article. I think the advantage, we've got to use every advantage we've got in Europe, and one of those is working in an international environment. And this is a beautiful thing to come into my inbox, because it means many of the successful US companies still are not thinking about international markets very well. And I think the day we founded, we were the most successful flight search engine in Scotland. So we've got to look with one user. So we've got to look internationally from the early days. And I'd encourage you to use that as a natural advantage that we all share. So I once coined the phrase, rather unfairly and unkindly, that marketing is how to solve the problem of revenue outstripping costs. And generally speaking, I'm very geared towards ROI-driven marketing. But there is an area that we do participate in, which is much harder to measure, and that is PR. And if you've heard of Paul Graham, he wrote an article on the subject called Submarine. I would also recommend you read Flat Earth News, and that will give you an insight why PR works. And we do a lot around that. We do lots of surveys and such like. And it builds up over time. It has to be something you do continually. One of the things that I was talking just before I came on was there's a presumption sometimes that we got lucky in SEO, and that was one of the secrets to our growth. And I think the point I would make around that is anytime there is an ecosystem of agencies, marketing agencies, that means it's a mature market for that marketing channel. So where is marketing going on now that the agencies haven't quite got their head around how it works? So some of the hard-to-use Facebook marketing platform would fit into that. But equally, App Store visibility is really the new SEO. But my wider point would be one which is to find the new channels that are inefficient and therefore you can get an outsized response from. So that was my attempt to be of value to you, and I'd like to thank you very much for not walking out and indeed listening politely. Thank you.